back, guys. How are we doing? So it's a few days after I posted my last video explaining that I was going to start making videos again, and to my amazement, a lot of people seem quite happy by the fact that they get to listen to me drivel on again about model railways and trains. So thank you for all the comments. It was very much appreciated, very motivating. If you remember in the last video, I did talk about the fact that I need to now concentrate on the scenic area of Harefield, and that is going to be my main focus. It will be my main focus. However, in true Eric style, a distraction has turned up in the post from Railway Laser Lines. So I better get it unboxed because it's something that I've been banging on to Steve about for 2 years now, something like that. So I'm going to get this open and I'll show you what it is. Hopefully it's in one piece. Can't get the lid off. Can you guess what it is yet? So this, oh, there's a couple little bits of damage, but it's very minor. This is Steve's prototype that he did for Old Oak Common. Now, I've been banging on at him about doing me one of these for so long, and to be fair, he's just so busy that I don't think he's got time really to do it because he's got so many other kits in the pipeline, and obviously this is a very niche thing. But basically, he built this a long time ago, put a few pictures up on his Instagram, which I will stick a screenshot up of, and obviously I used to work at Old Oak Commons, so straight away I was on his case. I want this, I want this. I think the original plan was that he was going to develop it into a complete shed. So this was basically like a test piece just to prove the concept. And as you can see, it's low relief. Now, if you remember, I have a space for this, and there is a reason that the area below the lift out board has always been bare. And I have mentioned it in one or two previous videos ages ago that I was waiting for something special, and here it is. So in case you forgot, I have a lift out board. Well, a hinge board. I'll stick that in, like so. And there's always been this big space in the corner where I have done nothing. And regular viewers of my videos will have noticed that there is, if I bring the camera over, the track work in for a lead off to something, including a little head shunt, all this next to the main line. It's all wired in, it works, but obviously I've never had anything to use it with because that board has always been bare. I have been waiting all this time, well yeah, it is basically 2 years now, to get something in that corner, and I've always been banging on at Steve that I would love a little nod to Old Oak Commons. So naturally, when he designed this, I got very excited because I actually want a low relief version, because as you can see, I won't have the space for a full one. And the plan is, if I move this bit of wood, to have it in the corner. Obviously, I will have to take it off the raised up base and sort of sink it in. The plan is to have that shed in the corner there. I will have something above it built in so that when the lift out board goes back, it will rest on that and not the shed roof, because that would be very bad. But that will go in that corner. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a mess around with it, try and get it off the base, and then we'll see if we can get it roughly in position where I want it to go. Because I also want to fit a mirror. I've got some here, got a little offcut. So this is plastic so that you can cut it. I got this, I think it was off eBay, and it's what I use on the canal scene. So the plan is to fit a mirror behind the shed, so it looks like the shed continues on a little bit further. So I'll probably have to put the mirror at a slight angle so you can't see yourself in it, but it will give the same effect as the canal, which I don't know if you guys all remember, but the canal down there has a mirror underneath it, so it looks like it carries on around the curve. Obviously it's probably a bit dusty, but you get the idea. And it took me a long time to work out the angle of it so that it looked like the curve continued on. But that is why it's all at a funny angle, so that you can't see yourself. So that's the idea for this, is that we'll have the yard coming in, and then you'll be able to go in this way, and you'll have a couple roads where you'll have some sort of storage outside the front of the shed, and then there'll probably be something coming around the side of the shed as well, and then just a little bit of sort of scenery to fill up that area and make it all look nice and complete. Now, I must admit, it probably won't really get used. It'll more be like a glorified diorama, really, that I can, if I really want to, run a diesel loco in and out. But of course, I can leave a couple diesel locos on it, plonked in there, just out of the way, and it'll just be a nice sort of backdrop for pictures of stuff coming round the nice gentle curve that I've got down there. And that was obviously the whole thinking behind it all. So if we can make that happen, then excellent news. But yeah, thank you very much, Steve. I really do owe you. I know it's been a long time me bugging you, so I'm super pleased to get this on the layout. I've just had an idea after speaking to my friend James. In the house we go. Do you remember this room? This is where the railway used to be. There is a slight clue, because my cabinet's still in here with a few ancient projects that I'll never finish. If we open this, without breaking all Charlotte's stuff, what do we have here? So, this was a silly idea that I had. This was a cab front from Kyle TRS Trains that I grafted onto a Hornby Railroad HST power car, which this side obviously looks a bit naff, but this side I've done most of the work. So James has just given me this bright idea. I need half an HST power car to stick in it. Well, I've got this one that I'm never going to finish because Bachmann are now bringing out the proper prototype HST power car, 41001, which I will have to buy. And that was the reason for building this before, is because I never thought it would come out. So this one's spare, hence I've never finished it. Let's chop it up. So you can see the general idea is obviously I will cut the power car so that just the front end, sort of that much sticks out. I'll basically just chop it in half so it overhangs the front of the shed a little bit. The bit about this that is really quite annoying and unfortunate is that the side that I got round to doing and that I've done all the grills on and is basically ready for paint is the side that you won't see. So this side obviously is pretty much standard as they come. However, it's not the end of the world, because obviously if I'm going to cut it in half, I had to smooth these grills off above the cooler group. And on this side I won't need to do anything this end, and the hard bit was smoothing those grills off, as well as getting rid of a grill that used to be there with some plasticard, and then doing the door, the guard's door. So I won't have to do that. All I'm going to have to do basically is smooth that first grill off at the front and just redo that little half grill, and then put the windows in the side. So it's not too bad, and we should be okay. I can get some grey primer on it, see what it will look like, and then chuck some paint on it quickly, basically. But yeah, basically that would be the idea. So I think so that we can get a look at that, I need to pull the back off of this, and the easiest way to do it probably is either to take the shed base off, or in fact just to break this off and actually just use the base that is on or straight onto the baseboard and then just connect track to it. So I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time doing this because I don't want to break anything, so I think I'll do this off camera just so that I don't actually ruin it, and then we'll go from there. So I'll come back when I've got an idea what I'm going to do, or when I've done it. So I've got the shed off the base, and that's where it's going to go, in that corner. I just need some points, I suppose, to make the yard up. So I think this will be the general idea for the yard layout. It's sort of what I was thinking along the lines of originally when I came up with the idea. And I think it's the best use of the space, to be honest, with still having a little bit of space for scenery. Obviously it's very crammed in, but it is what it is. So obviously got this bit here, as we know. I've just swapped the locos around because the 08 would have to be this end to push something in the shed. So yeah, we'd have the point here, which is already existing. Then you go off to the right, you've got a right hand and a left hand point. That gives you the 3 roads into the shed. And it also gives you just enough space in front of the shed. If I grab another engine, I just happen to have a second 66 here. So it gives you enough space on each road, basically, if I actually show you, it help, to sit something outside the shed doors like that. So that would be perfect. So if I really wanted, I could stable 3 locos there out of the way, or you could have the 08 somewhere up the head shunt or somewhere else. But you've also got the option of coming round the left, and that track would sort of follow the main line with a fence or something in between to separate the section off. You would come round into a point there, a right hand point, so it would be on this board, so those 3 points stay on the same board. It's easier to wire up, and then that point would lead into a head shunt that follows along this bit of the main line, and then that would allow you to just stable a loco over there to the side of the shed. So it just gives you a bit more space, so you can fit another engine in there, or we could even have a fuel point there, something like that. That would just make it a bit interesting, but obviously you would probably want to make that hard standing so that if you need to, a forklift or something could come across that and could access the front of the shed area. Obviously it's only going to be a very small thing and it's squeezed in the space, but it gives you a good idea of what I was going for. I'm just thinking how to do the back scene. Now obviously I have got a back scene board up against the door there, so that this one sits in front of the lift out and curves up and sits in front of it. However, obviously I want the back scene to be up against the depot building so that it looks low relief and you haven't got a gap behind it, because as it is at the minute it will look stupid. So I think I'm going to do it a different way, and I'm going to get some back scene boards cut out of ply, and the back scene boards will sit literally flush with the edge of the baseboard. So I'm going to have to get them cut nicely, I think, and then basically they're just going to sit on. I'll have to glue them onto the top of the baseboard and maybe put a couple little supporting bits in just to stop them when breaking off when they get knocked. So I think this board's 3 foot by 3 foot. If I just look there, yes it is 3 foot that way, and then that scene, that will be 3 foot as well that way. So just trying to sort of work it out size wise. Ignore this rubbish, and also how far up to go. So obviously I don't want it to be above the door, because it'll look a bit silly. So I'd say 1 foot tall would probably be about perfect. So if we stuck with that, then I think that'd be about right. So these back scene boards at the minute that are really naff, they were basically just put on there temporarily. It's just very thin, is it hardboard or whatever it is, and as you can see it breaks so easy and gets chipped. That's the same as what this is, and obviously this took a knock once and then snapped off, so this needs replacing anyway. So I would also get a board for this. So this is 2.5 feet, is it? Let me have a look. How long is the lift out board? I'm sure it's 2.5 if my memory serves me correct. No, it's not, it's 3 foot. Oh, well, that'd be perfect then. So if I got, oh, I can't get the tape measure out. So if I got a 3 foot by 1 foot board there, oh, actually, that's 4 inches. So the back seam board on this one would have to sit behind as it is now so that it can overlap. So that would have to be a 3 foot board lengthwise, but it'd have to be 1 foot, at least 1 foot 4 inches, so that it could sit on the back of this board. That would just be a plain 3 foot by 1 foot, and then it basically sit on top of the existing board. And then that could be as much as I want by 1 foot. I mean, ideal world, I'd probably want to go up to that bridge. So let's go and get some wood cut. So I've got some 12mm ply. It's cut to size. It's 1 foot tall. It's 3 foot long. Just to hold it in there for now, I've got a right angle bracket down here. I've moved the hinge over so it sits against it, and I will see, obviously taking that little bit out just for the hinge to sit in, so that's flush against the edge. That sits there. Once the board in the end is in, it should push it over ever so slightly, so it's at 90 degrees, but it's not the end of the world. So you can see now that that board will slide behind. Obviously there's no guarantee that this is sitting straight anyway, to be honest. This might be sitting back. So the corner pieces are in, and I've done them in like a sort of sky colour, and tried to add some sort of clouds in, and I've done a bit of white towards the bottom, fading up, as I say, with a few clouds, to give a bit of a different effect. I think it looks a lot better than just plain blue, as you can tell. So now I'm just doing the lift out, so you can see how the lift out's going to work. It's going to slot behind. So I've actually already put a chain on there, so the lift out will now attach to the roof, and it will sit at 90 degrees. It won't flip all the way over anymore, which is a bit of a pain, but it's not the end of the world and it makes life easier. But I'm just making the background for this, and what I've done is, where this is meant to be cut to follow the shape of that board, I've actually continued it downwards slightly, as you can see, and radius the edge. What that does is that will contact the back of this board sooner, and that will actually force this bit of the layout that way if needs be. So the board will go straight down and it will find its home. Also, because that overlaps slightly, it means that it overlaps this little triangular piece, which is the bit that it all locks into. So obviously I can, if I want to do that up. Although I've got a bolt here which centralises it all anyway. And the tracks then are lined up pretty good. So that works an awful lot better. So what I've got to do now is obviously continue the paint across. So I'll do the same as I did on this. I'll paint the blue on, which is Monaco blue. It's a tester pot from B&Q. It's furniture paint. Then I'll do the white over the bottom layer. Then I'll do a few clouds. Then a bit of grey, just to give the clouds a bit of a sort of difference, so not all completely white. And then over the top I used some slightly darker blue in a spray can, just around the very top edge, just to give it a bit more of a blue colour, because it went very white. So I think I'll copy that and try and get it as best as I can. I'll probably do just blow the white in here, just so that it matches, and then I can do the rest outside. And there we go then, that bit of backscene is all in and painted. Obviously I do well, I've got to continue the paint up there because now it looks a bit bare, the backscene here, excluding the mess. So now that that's done, I think we should get on and probably lay a bit of track. When I get round to it, I think now I'm going to have to continue the backscene that way because it's going to look silly otherwise. So I will have to get a bit more wood to do that, and then we can crack on. I'll do it much the same way as it was before. And we're back then. The first sections of track are in, so the 3 depot roads. We've got a left hand and then a right hand point going into them, and that leads in fairly nicely. And you've got a nice bit of space just outside each road to store an engine, so they're just the sort of length I wanted. As you can see, the shed goes in place, but it looks a bit silly because it just goes up against the wall. So what I'm going to do, as I think I mentioned before, is I have an offcut left from the mirror I used when I built the canal scene. So that is just big enough, luckily, and I'm going to put that behind the shed. But I've got to cut it down so it will fit inside the shed, so that you don't see it sticking out, basically. This is just a film on the top, so it will be a nice mirror underneath. I'll cut it with the multi-tool until it fits. There you go, mirror's cut to shape, fits in there lovely. Obviously it's not a perfect science because this shed is such low relief that you only get one extra bit of walling, and then you can see the basically what is the background. But I'm hoping that with a cleverly placed loco, dun dun dun, either there or somewhere else, that will hide it a bit. That was the whole point of cutting that prototype HST down. So if you look at it from certain angles, it kind of looks like it carries on. You get the idea. I don't know if it's better in the middle one, maybe. I suppose you'd be able to see that the loco doesn't carry on, but Something like that anyway. You get the kind of general gist. But yeah, it just gives it a little more depth than it had before. I'm very pleased with that. I think that looks quite good. Change of plan. I have decided rather than go round the curve, have a head shunt and then go back onto a fueling point, I thought it looked a bit weird having tracks 90 degrees from each other. So instead, I'm going to simplify it. Well, it's the same amount of points, but I'm going to put a Y point there and then just have two spurs coming off, and one of them will be the fuel point. I'll decide which when I've got this bit in, when I start eyeing up the track. But this is an old Pico insole frog Y point, and I use electrofrog points. But I can't remember exactly, so don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Y points never used to come in electrofrog guys. So I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify it. So I've got an electrofrog point here, and on an electrofrog point, this whole section is basically one piece electrically. It's all connected together, and obviously you've got those joins there, which is to isolate it from the rest of the point. So on here, obviously you haven't got that join to isolate it, and it needs to be between the frog and between the switch rails somewhere. Obviously we haven't got a lot of space on this one, but I'm thinking if I cut the rails between these two sleepers, I think I'll get away with that. So I'll do that, and then basically go from there, and that should isolate this from this. I will solder a frog wire onto the bottom of here, and then I can power this like I do conventionally. The reason I would do this is because as it currently stands, the way that this is powered is by essentially this rail, this switch rail, touching the outer rail there. So when you move it across, those bits touching basically makes a circuit, but you're relying on that always being clean inside there, which is the Achilles heel of weathering track and not keeping on top of cleanliness. So it gets rid of that being a problem, and then you basically just put permanent track feeds to this side of it. So we'll get the Dremel out, cut through there, and then solder some wires on. So it's the next day. We have skipped forward a little bit. You just saw me fitting this Y point, which is now in, and the wires are dropped through and the track is all in, as you can see. So I did, as mentioned before, make the decision not to go all the way round with a head shunt and then back into a fuel point, because I think it would have looked a bit pony. It probably would have looked strange having two bits of track 90 degrees from each other. So I made the choice to put the Y point up there basically as far back as I could with still getting the angle so that it would go parallel to the shed. So that looks fine. Obviously I need a buffer stop there because I could only find one at a time. I've got another one somewhere, so I'll dig that out. And then we've got this road up here, which is the fuel point. You can just about squeeze two 66s in there without them fouling this line here. So basically that means we can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 66s on here. Well, I suppose you could fit another one here. So you could squeeze 7 locos in this yard if you really had to, and an 08 up the head shunt. But you probably wouldn't ever see that in reality. You'd only have a couple random locos at one time. But I'm pretty pleased with it. Obviously, as you can tell, I did get carried away and chucked a load of ballast down. I went and got some DCC Concepts Legacy ballast from AGR. It is this stuff, the 4mm brownish blend. So I've used that. I'm quite happy with how it looks. And then on top, I've chucked some bits of Wooden Scenic's blended turf, just to give it a bit of greenery in there, because obviously I will come along now and static grass areas of this. I've got a few bits to do before I do that, but that is the plan. Now, you will obviously have noticed that a backman servicing point has appeared. I've got to say thank you to a friend of mine, Peter. He kindly has given me this in return for doing him a favour with something else. I put a post up on Instagram, and he very quickly messaged me saying, oh, I've got a spare one. It's just what I was looking for, and as you can see, it sort of matches what I want to do perfectly well. And I've chosen to put it here because I was thinking that that piece, if that piece of track, if I have the servicing point going up the side there, it blocks the view of the shed. But in doing this, it obviously creates a bit of sort of difference. It's not all just at 90 degrees to each other, so we can have that line obviously going off to the side, which looks quite cool, I think, especially the train's coming around, eventually obviously there will be fencing in between, which is another job I've got to do before static grass goes in. But it's just a bit of variation from having everything at 90 degrees. You can see this building here, this is only a temporary thing. It's actually the other half of the building I put on the steam shed. So I've just chucked it there to fill the space at the minute, and I need to have a think about what is going to go in this location. I mean, I could even use that. It's not the end of the world, but I don't really want to. But that's why that is left bare, because obviously I'll need to put a building in and then sort some ground cover around it and then go from there. Might even put a little road, sort of little gravel road or whatever in there, and place a forklift in there somewhere with a pallet on it or something like that, just for a bit of sort of scenic interest. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm happy with it. Obviously, it needs a good smacking over with the airbrush, as you can tell. It's quite a big difference. But I'll do that, and I'll probably just, as I say, paint in some bits in here just so it kind of blends in for now. And obviously it needs static grass. So what I'm going to do now is I will probably fit some of the palisade fencing from Wills around this area to block off the depot. I'll tell you what, actually no, I'll airbrush it first, because otherwise I'll ruin the fencing. So I'm going to airbrush it first, tone the track down, then I'll fit the fencing, then I can static grass, and then we'll see how we get on. So hopefully it will look all right. Wish me luck. So the track weathering is done, as you can see. It's looking good. I've cleaned the tops of the rails off, and now I'm installing the fencing before I stack grass. So it's the usual Wills palisade fencing. It's a bit of a pain because you've got to drill a hole for each of these little legs, and it's fiddly, and you've got to get the holes in the right place perfectly, otherwise it doesn't quite line up. But I'm also cheating. I'm cutting the first leg off, because otherwise you've got to drill two very tiny holes right next to each other. It never works. Otherwise you resort to just drilling a big hole, and then you end up with them loose in there anyway. So I'm instead cutting the first leg off, and I'm gluing along this edge, and then attaching it to the one next to it. And that's working quite well so far. It's doing the job. Obviously I've got to go up here to around this area, and then go from there basically. That'd be, I might put a set of these gates across the front. I'll just chop them so that they can be opened. I think that might look cool actually, if I have it gated off. But yeah, it just obviously separates the area off. I think down here it looks quite good like that. Obviously the main line's going around, separated off from the yard. It'd be quite cool if you have a loco sat in the fuel bay like this one. Well, almost. That one was there even. I need to put a little bit of fencing across the back here, and then I'm going to hide this hinge with some bushes and stuff. That should be all good. But yeah, I just thought I'd tell you just quickly how I'm doing this, and hopefully it's helpful. I'm basically just lining the drill bit up by eye, and then winging it. Sounds like someone's getting nicked in the background. The old rozzers are out. Two. Go for number 3 there. Hopefully my hands aren't too in the way. Where's that gone? There it is. Number 4 will be there. Then I'll chuck a bit of glue along that edge quickly. We'll stick it in the holes, whoever misses. Like so. And then the fun bit is trying to stick it to the last one when naturally I've drilled the hole a mill off so it doesn't bloody reach. As I keep doing every single time, you'd think I would have learnt. So I've basically just got to pinch those together and sit and wait until the glue goes off, and hopefully it will sort itself out. And there you go. Lovely. Although I have just slightly disturbed a bit of fence there, so I'll just straighten them up. A very thin pair of tweezers. And then that's that piece done, and we can move on to the next one. And then we ended up with this, and I think it's looking pretty good, guys. The fencing, my hands were definitely in the way on that shot, so I do apologise, but we were down here somewhere. As you can see, I've carried it along, and I did indeed put some open gates at the end, and I'll continue the fencing just there. I've glued these old card buildings in that I got from Anthony's shop once upon a time. They're good little space fillers. I know they're a bit knackered, but they'll do. I can always chuck a bit of graffiti over the damaged bits or something. And as you can see, I've also chucked a little stack of grass everywhere, and that's really tied it all in nice and brought the scene to life. Love a bit of greenery. I've probably gone a bit over the top with it. However, I did want this to look a little bit old and used, so I guess it would have some greenery around. But I don't think it's too bad. I reckon we'll live with it. By the time there's some detail bits in, I can always pick a few bits of grass out, ignore my sliced open hand. And then we'll just go from there, really. So that just leaves, now that I even put a path in from the gate, which does need weathering, don't kill me yet, that just leaves this triangle of land. Now, I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but I am thinking of putting just a small little roadway in for like a forklift or something. So this building will stay where it is for now, just as a kind of place filler, placeholder, whatever you call it. Is it which of the two is it? I can't remember. Enlighten me. And then we'll have the road sort of coming in from here to a dead end. And then we can put some bits and bobs around and go from there, just to fill that up for now. And eventually I would like to get a taller building, like some sort of tall mesh room or something. Now, Steve from Railway Laser Lines, who did the shed, does have a Westbury mesh room on file. I can't remember if he was doing it in O gauge first or 00, but that did interest me. So maybe something along those sort of lines. It would obviously tie in then with his shed, but obviously we'll have to see when it comes. And talking of Steve, just a little nod to him. The little plaque that came with the shed, I did chuck it up here. I didn't want to put it on the back scene because I thought it might get in the way of pictures. So I thought, where can I put it? And I figured, well, above the scene is probably a good little place. So obviously, if you are looking for an old common shed, then keep your fingers crossed that Steve can at some point get round to it. Maybe express your interest by letting him know that you would buy one. And then fingers crossed, one day the coming soon can be it's arrived. So yeah. Right, so I'm going to get a Sharpie out. I'm going to draw roughly where I want the road to go. And then basically I'll just do something simple and basic just to fill that space. Just masking up then, that's where the road's going to be. So a big bit at the end, just so you can turn around with a pallet or two. And then a nice wide bit of road there. Bit of masking tape, so I'll put some grey primer down and then we'll put a concrete sort of coat down. And that should look alright. Ignore the drill battery, that's holding that bit of wood in place. So we've got a road painted on now. So grey primered it, then went over it with Rust-Oleum textured paint in a concrete colour, and then it was just very bright, so I went back over it with a mixture of that and grey primer, just sort of roughly stuck over the top, and it's not come out too bad. The only thing I didn't think of is you've got a bit of one of the braces there for the baseboard, but luckily it's behind the servicing point, so we won't worry about it too much. I mean, worst case I can stick a drain cover over it or something like that. But you'll notice I've gone round as well with a bit of ballast just to blend it in, if you like, I suppose. What I will do is, because this is drying now, I've got to wait for it to dry. I've PVA'd all the ballast, and then I'll come in again with the static grass and I'll blend this out a little bit. This bit here I'll keep because we can have, as you can see at the minute, a couple of cars parked where they are. so that kind of works. And then a little barrier would be handy here somewhere, a little yellow Armco barrier sort of thing. Then we can start plonking some details on. So I better find my bags of detailing bits that I've got lying around somewhere and see what we've got that we can use. Also, just how good the Cavalex 56s look on here. It's nice to have somewhere to actually put them. So I suppose I better antagonise them a little bit and ask them for some 60 samples to play with. Detail time then. I have gone ahead and static grassed the bank next to the old station and the embankment in the middle as well, just to blend them in a bit better. So they look a lot nicer now than originally. So I've got a load of detail bits here, but I did just find some lights, so I figured I might as well put some lights on the platform quick, because then when you look that direction it will look a bit more finished off. I have these by DMG Electric, but they're a little bit large. They're more sort of street lamp size. If you look at those over there, that's the same ones. And then I remembered I got these from Kite's Lights, which are quite a bit shorter, so I think they'll be about right. So we'll probably chuck all of those on there. The reason I didn't put lights before is because the lift out board obviously flipped all the way back and it would have squashed the lights, whereas now that it only flips 90 degrees, they'll never touch anything. So that'll be perfect. But I've also got these, I've got this bag of bits and bobs in here. We've got people, we've got pallets, we've got bits and bobs galore, some bins, loads of stuff in there. So we'll be able to find something in there we can chuck on the depot. And also in here, we've got some buddleia plants. We've got some barbed wire, not that I can't really think where I would put that. Yeah, we've got all sorts of stuff. So I'll probably pick a few bits out. Oh, we've even got a portaloo, if you fancy a portaloo. So I'll pick some bits out and we'll see what we're going to use. But in the meantime, I'm going to fit those lights because that'll look quite cool. Well, you could say I got carried away with that, doing the station quickly. I've not even done any of the yards yet, but I thought I'd show you. So starting this end, we've got a train stop down there. We've got these Absolute Aspects SPTs, signal post telephones, scale model scenery, anti-trespass grid. I've got an oyster reader there. I have got a ticket machine, like an old sort of style, which is cool. We've got a bloke from Scale 3D just leaning up against it. Little litter bin and a bench. We've got another person there, and then up this end we've got a gradient post, another SPT, and more trespass grids, because there's going to be a signal either end of this platform is the plan. So I think that's pretty cool, and it sort of finishes it all off really nice. The fencing behind is just ratio Great Western Railway station fencing, and in my opinion it's bloody awful, but it looks okay. I mean, I've got a few little touch-ups to do, but the posts that hold it in aren't round, they're square. So this is a bit unusual in the fact that I've not drilled holes and I've just glued it straight to the platform surface. So I don't really like doing that because it doesn't really last, I don't think. But it looks really good. You can see a little gap there, and that is because I've had to offset the fence because, of course, this board hinges. So the fence has to clear the next piece. But generally, if you just glance down it, you don't really notice it. I mean, I probably should have put it the other way around so that this bit sits in front of this bit. I think the angle might hit it a bit better. I might actually try and break that off and redo that just to try and help that. But otherwise, I'm super pleased. Obviously, we've still got third and fourth rail to put in on the platform line here, so that's something that I'll have to do at some point. But I think we've got bigger fish to fry at the minute, so let's get back on and finish this bloody depot, because this video is dragging on. Or not.
3 weeks later.
So guys, some time has now passed, and if you follow me on social media, you might have realised what is happening, but the depot's gone. And I know it's a bit of a weird way to end the video. However, I had a bit of a rethink the other day, and I've decided to redo all the railway in the cabin. So basically the main exhibition boards for Harefield will be in the cabin, with only 2 boards swapped out so that I can have it in exhibition mode all the time, apart from obviously the junction and 1 fiddle yard board. That means that we can get it running reliably, we can get the scenery actually finished, and then we can concentrate on other things. And in here it will give me a lot more space as well, because I'm putting it up on higher legs. I'm actually leaning on the depot board right now that you've just seen me build. So it's on 4 foot tall legs, as you can see. Now the plan was to rebuild the railway and include this in one corner instead of my big Watford South junction board. However, because this is 1 foot shorter, however, I got the measurements wrong, and this is still going to make it 1 foot too long in here. So unfortunately, it's not going to fit. And what I need is a 3 foot by 2 foot board. Now what this is a 3 foot by 2 foot board, but with a 1 foot by 2 foot board bolted on. And as you can see, it's bolted on there right through the middle. So unfortunately, so yeah, a bit of a sad end to this video, because I was really looking forward to getting this done, but it's going to have to wait until a little day later down the line. I will 100% be making use of the Old Oak Common, or Old Oak Uncommon, whatever you want to call it, shed. It's too nice to lose, so I will try and make space for it. If not, it'll end up on a diorama or some sort of module that I build in the future to bolt onto Harefield's exhibition boards. But as for that, I'm afraid that's it. Sad times. So I can appreciate it's obviously not the end of the video that I'm sure most of you wanted, but it is what it is. After taking my layout out to an exhibition, which will hopefully feature in a video soon, I had to have a bit of a rethink with the cabin at home and space constraints and stuff. So that is what's brought all this on. So hopefully you're not all too upset. The depot will make a comeback in the future somewhere. I will make space for it at some point. So hold that thought, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. So thanks for watching. Take care, guys, and hope to see you all soon. Goodbye for now.